Hey Vikram,
Hey man, how's it going?
doing good Vikram. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. You can hear me okay?
I can hear you good Vikram.
Fantastic.
Awesome, awesome Vikram. So Vikram, Dormant, your new album is to be out on September 1st. So would you like to tell me a bit about the songwriting and production behind this new album?
Sure, man. The process behind working on Dormant, I would say, started pretty soon after we released Nectar, which was, I think February 2022. However, the entire process took us a great deal longer than the process for Nectar did. I think from the very start to the very end of Nectar took about 4 months, and this one took maybe around 9 months. Which of course includes some, periods when Tom was off playing summer festivals, and then he did a very long 2 month tour with Evergrey in the fall. So these things, take away from the process inevitably as he has to concentrate on other things, of course. But we really started work in earnest, I would say, around October, and by end of January into February, we are finished with recording about a month for mixing, about a month for mastering, and then I think the album was done around April, early May, perhaps. So it was quite a long process. And the reason for that, aside from Tom being very busy, and I'm very busy as well with my own musical life, aside from that, the reason behind the delay was that we really pushed ourselves really hard. The bar was really high for us to make something both great but also pushing the boundaries of what it means to be silence guys, being willing to reconsider what is our template, being comfortable tearing down the template and rebuilding from scratch, rethinking every decision really that we had made on the past two albums so that we were able to make something really fresh and exciting and inspiring. In fact, we had written a bunch of old songs during the Nectar sessions, but we ended up trashing, I think, all of them and just writing stuff fresh because we were so inspired and we wanted things to feel really current and energizing and inspiring. So, yeah, there you go. Long winded answer, but hope that made sense.
Awesome, man. And was there any particular concept or a theme that was focused on Dormant?
I'd say, lyrically speaking, the theme was life. We had this phrase that we came to actually when reflecting on what we had done and kind of figuring out after the fact what were we writing about, because the writing of the music and the lyrics is very instinctive and we really trust our gut while we're writing. We try not to second guess ourselves as much as possible and follow the intuition wherever it leads. So then after the fact we're kind of thinking, what are all these songs about? And a phrase that came to our mind was conversations with life about life. So what we're doing in all of these lyrics is we're reflecting on not just our lives, but the human experience in general, what we all go through, also reflecting on the state of culture and society and some of the themes that I think all of us are dealing with at this particular time in human history. Reflecting on these things and also looking inwards and indulging in a lot of introspection, holding up a mirror and looking at what we see, being very honest about that, and basically capturing that experience in lyrical form for our listeners to basically witness us undergoing this process and hopefully be inspired in their own introspective journeys to undergo something similar for themselves. Because I think that's a very important step to self actualization that is pretty hard to achieve in the modern day, but we just need to take the time and do it because that's how we're going to grow.
Awesome, awesome. And talking about Dormant, 13 amazing songs, beautifully
Thank
written,
you.
great songwriting. The atmospheric presence was totally mind-blowing. So from the start to end, each and every song is like going into the song to feel it and take it into our lives. So totally fantastic work from you and Tom. So thank you so much for you both for putting up this amazing album this year. As a creator, how do you guys feel about the outcome of this one?
Well, sorry, did you say the artwork or what did you say? How do
The entire album, how do you feel about the outcome of this complete album?
Oh, I understand. I understand. Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words, and it's very gratifying that you are feeling that way about the music. Um, I would say that we are really, really excited about this album. And the reason behind that, in particular with this album, is that we feel that we have pushed the boundaries so far. We experimented with so many different things. We really were willing to try so many things that we had never tried before. Some examples include we tried a whole bunch of new instruments that we had never brought into our sound: electric guitars, drums, modular synthesizers. Shakuhachi, which is a Japanese flute, appears on a song. We have a lot of mandolin on a song. I even use soprano and alto recorders on a song. So just thinking about so many different ways to articulate ourselves. And one way that we really push ourselves is by texture, thinking of how you can push textures and sound design and widen the sound palette so that you're thinking of new ways to challenge yourself aside from just how many notes can you play and what order can you play those notes. You know, there's a lot more to music and sound than that. Pushing that element, writing the best songs we can. Tom and I put so much thought into the lyrics and the vocal melodies, and it was really the first time that we were truly collaborative in that process. We spent a lot of time together on Zoom, and he and I would go through every vocal melody and every lyric, and I would come up with vocal parts. I would suggest alternate ideas, and we would go through the lyrics a lot together because I'm a native English speaker. He's not. So he really values what I have to say about how lyrics are phrased. And because of all that, just I think this album is a step up. For me, this is the Silent Skies album that I've always wanted to make. It's where it's kind of the conclusion of the trajectory of what we achieved first with Satellites and then with Nectar, which each developed our sound in a certain way. And this album puts it all together, but also expands the universe at the same time. So yeah, we are beyond excited about this album.
Awesome, awesome. And also, you have chosen three cover songs in this album, linked from Linkin Park, Iron Maiden, and as well as Bruce Springsteen. So, how did you come up with these three singles from this album? Is there any particular reason behind that?
Any song that we cover has to meet some particular attributes. And one of them is that it should be a song that doesn't sound like us, that people wouldn't expect for us to cover, because none of these songs sound like our arrangement. They're not piano ballads, they're not soft songs. But what all three of them have in common is that there's an emotional essence that is very, very strong in all three of these songs. All three of these songs have very, very emotional, deep lyrics with a lot of lyrical potency, and they all have very strong narrative components as well. And these are things that I'm just conjecturing here, but I think a lot of listeners, if they just hear these songs on rock radio or something, they don't really process or they don't really pay attention to just how meaningful these lyrics are. A great example is The Trooper, because The Trooper is such a high energy metal song. It's a metal classic. Everyone knows those riffs. Everyone knows Bruce Dickinson's vocal melodies and how much power and character he has. He sounds so larger than life on that song, and the galloping bass and all of these things. But Steve Harris's lyrics that he wrote for that song are so tragic. They're not heroic, they're tragic if you really look at it. I mean, it's open to interpretation. Of course, you could interpret that song as being heroic and galvanizing the troops into action, but when we look at these lyrics, we see them as being very tragic and talking about how senseless war is. It's really an anthem about the senselessness of war. And we were coming up with picking our covers in 2022, and the invasion of Ukraine was very foremost on our minds. How still prevalent this topic is. Sorry, how relevant this topic is. The fact that it's been all these years and we still have to learn about the senselessness of war. It's so sad to me. It's so tragic. I mean, I come from a Hindu belief. I'm not a practicing Hindu anymore, but nonviolence is such a big part of that tradition, and it's. I've always had a philosophical opposition to war. We don't really need to get into that now, but
Mm.
You know, it's tragic. And basically, the idea with our version of the song, to put it simply, is we strip away the guitars and the drums and the character of the original song, but you're left with lyrics on paper, melodies, chords. And then we think if we were writing this song, if we had come up with these lyrics, if we had come up with these chords, how would we arrange it to make a Silent Skies song? Well, as far as the chords are concerned, there are ways that I play chords on the piano that are very natural to me when it comes to Silent Skies. When it comes to vocal melodies, there are certain ways that Tom sings that are very comfortable for Silent Skies that fit our sound. When it comes to synthesizers, there are certain types of sounds that I like to use. There are certain ways I like to build texture. And we just kind of rebuild the song in our own image. The idea being that hopefully listeners can listen to our version and they can hear these lyrics and these songs from a fresh perspective, hear some of the underlying emotions behind these songs. And the ultimate, cherry on top would be if listeners go back to the original song with a fresh set of ears and hear, wow, I didn't realize, but this song has so much underlying emotion and sadness and melancholy to it. So that's essentially the thought process behind us doing these covers. And I should also say that it's really fun to do this. It's not a chore. It's not especially arduous. It's fun. It's creative. We're applying our own creativity to an existing song. That's really fun. And if we were just recreating the song from scratch, playing the exact same riffs, the exact same vocal melodies, it's really not that interesting to us. So it's a lot more interesting to be creative and artistic about it.
Fantastic, fantastic. And any particular plans on the day of the release on September 1st?
Going through this release and beyond it, basically the idea is going to be doing everything we can to take Silent Skies to the next level. And that means a lot of different things. For starters, we actually filmed 6 videos for this album. I guess it's typical for a band to do 2 to 3 videos for an album cycle. In the past, we've done 2 to 3 videos per album cycle. We filmed 6 for this one because we felt that so many songs on the album could be successful singles. And in fact, in picking 6, we leave out 4 that I think would have also made great singles. But it's, you have to choose something. But the idea is just that we want to spread this thing as far as it can go. One element of that is releasing a lot of videos to showcase the music kind of in visual form. Another example is working hard in other arenas. So we do a lot of video game scoring. That's actually a big thing that Tom and I do right now. And I'm actually, as of today, very deep in the final composing process for a game in the Warhammer 40K series, a Space Marine 2. We do a lot of game scoring. We have a meeting in 2 days in Stockholm with a film director to talk about scoring a feature film. We want to take Silent Skies in as many different directions as possible, even ways that may not be expected for a band like us. Like doing video game scoring might seem a bit peculiar, but we just want to do what we do in as many arenas as possible. And one of those is live performance, of course. We really want to take this show on the road. We've been talking a lot about what this experience is going to be like if we play Silent Skies live. We've been talking about this for at least 4 years now. And it's challenging because on Dormant, there's so many different instruments. And I was, listing all this stuff earlier in the interview. That's kind of just scratching the surface of what would be required to play our music live. Now, off the top of my head, we would need a drummer who also does electronic percussion. We would need a bass player who also plays synth bass. We would need at least 1 extra keyboard player because I play a lot of piano and a ton of keyboards. We would need at least 1 guitar player because there are a lot of guitars on this album. We would need at least 1 string player, but preferably more. We worked with Raphael Weinroth Brown on album, and I'm thinking on the song Dormant, he sent me 32 tracks of cellos. So it's going to take a lot of people to replicate our music live, but we want to do that so badly. I really don't think there's anything like live performance. It's the best, for performers and listeners alike. It's the most powerful, real experience of music. So that's just a taste of what we have, planned for the future. Of course, Silent Skies 4, we've been already working on for a while. We already have 3 or 4 songs written for our next album. So onwards and upwards, I guess.
Awesome, awesome. And Vikram, how has this musical journey of Silent Skies been for you guys so far?
I'd say that in the beginning, there was a lot of uncertainty. One of the elements of uncertainty was, who are we? You know, like figuring out what we were musically was a process. And we spent, I'd say, a year and 3 quarters writing our first album, Satellites, a long time, because we were trying to figure out who we were. And we started just using piano and vocals, really stripped down. And as we kept writing, we were thinking maybe it would be nice to bring in some cellos. Maybe a couple of synth parts might be nice. Oh, maybe we should add a beat here or something. And it's just grown and grown and grown, and we're understanding who we are through the process of doing all these things. Now that we're about to release Dormant, I think we have the best understanding yet of who we are musically and creatively. But the fact is, there's a lot more left to do. There's a lot more growing left. And the beautiful thing about working in Silent Skies for me personally is that there are no rules. If we want to try something, we do it. If we want to add guitars, we do it. And that is meaningful for us because on the first 2 albums, there wasn't a single note of guitar. There was absolutely no guitars at all. But then we were thinking, why not? Why have that rule? If guitars fits this song, let's try it. Same thing with real drums. We had never had real drums before, but why not try it? And that's been the whole process of growth for Silent Skies since our beginning in 2017, when Tom first reached out to me to start this band. We've just been understanding who we are, and we grow personally as a result as well. Tom has gone from a musical collaborator to one of my very best friends, and he's one of the people I talk to most, in my life. And we grow together. We have very similar emotional experiences. He's just about twice my age, but we've been through a lot of very similar things in life. We have a lot of very similar struggles, be it, mental health or things that have happened to us or things that we experience because our loved ones go through things. So we grow a lot as people. We grow a lot as creatives. We learn so much each time. My knowledge of what to do on a synthesizer is so much greater than it was in 2017. Because in 2017, I was a piano player who was dabbling in electronic keyboards. And now I would say that's one of the absolute biggest parts of my life is playing synthesizer. So it's just growth. It's growth on every single level. And the amazing thing is that we're so young as a band. We're about to release our 3rd album, but our first album was released 3 years ago. So, really there's so much time left for us to grow. And I think that's amazing for Tom, especially because EVERGREY has existed for almost 30 years. Very few musicians get the chance to start over. Usually, EVERGREY keeps growing, which is amazing. I feel like they're getting bigger and bigger with each album, but at the same time, they're established. They have a sound. They have fans who expect certain things. With Silent Skies, Tom can begin again and build something up from the ground once more, just like he did 30 years ago. So it's a very special growth opportunity for him as well. And it allows him to do something that neither he nor his fans expected would ever happen, which is really cool, I think.
Interesting, interesting. And Vikram, finally, do you have any message for the Silent Skies fan around the world?
Yeah, of course. I would just like to say, first of all, thank you for the support and for listening. We are a bit of, I think, a left turn for most metal listeners. Most metal listeners are probably not expecting to resonate with an album that has no metal and really no rock as well. It's so different from what metalheads usually listen to, but at the same time, I really believe that metalheads are open-minded. And I really believe that one amazing thing about metalheads is that they really tend to value emotion in their music. I would say probably one of the most emotionally oriented listeners groups of listeners in music, because so much metal, even very like hardcore, high octane metal, has a ton of emotion, and it has atmosphere, and it has darkness, and it has melancholy. And metal fans understand, appreciate, and crave these things in their music. So Silent Skies present very same emotions that we hear, just in a different context with different instruments. But I'm very grateful to all the listeners who have given us a shot, because it really is a leap of faith to put on an album like ours if you're not used to music like this. But I'm really grateful for people giving it a chance. Hopefully, Dormant resonates with you. I think if you go in with an open mind and perhaps more importantly, an open heart, I think Dormant will make sense to you. You might find it resonates with you a lot more than you expected. So thank you, and hopefully you like the new album.
Fantastic, Vikram. And Vikram, I want to thank you so much for giving me today this wonderful opportunity to have you on this interview and talk about Silent Sky's new album, Dormant, to be out on September 1st. Thank you so much for putting up this amazing album this year. And I wish you and Tom all the best in the coming days, and really hoping to see you guys on the road.
Thank you, man. That's very kind of you, and I really enjoyed speaking to you. And hopefully we can do this again not too long from now.
Absolutely, Vikram. Take care of yourself and have a good day.
Thank you, man. You as well. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.